All right, so I want to give you guys a little bit of an example of today's kind of extension question. So you have something that looks like this, not the same, obviously, but it's a little bit different. And what it's asking you to do, let me make it a little bit more accurate to what you're being tasked with, is that you are supposed to find out what does X equal. But the problem is there's this A and the B stuff. So what I want your answer to look like at the end of this is I want it to look like X equals and then everything else away from the X. So when we solve for X, it means X equals and then everything else. Most of the time, that's always a number. In this case, it's not going to be a number. It's going to be an expression. So we're going to solve X by moving every other term and number away from the X variable. So we would start by just doing distribution. So I'd end up with 3X plus 6 minus 2a equals 8b minus 5x. Now, the next step, I'm going to combine any like terms that I can if I have any. I look at it, there are no like terms. So then the next step is let's start moving things away from the x variable. So let's start by adding the 2a to cancel it out. I'm going to cancel it out over here. Whatever I do to one side, I do to the other. Now, there's no other a's to add it to, so I'm going to add it all the way at the end by itself. You could think about it as like that there's an invisible like plus a 0a maybe, like don't write that, but you can think of it there as like on that side of the equation, there's 0 a's. So when I do plus 2a, I'm adding it to 0 a's, so I'm going to end up with 2 a's positive on the other side of the equation. So I now have 3x plus 6 equals 8b minus 5x plus 2a. All right, so all I did was I moved the a term away from my x variable. Okay, now next step. I see that I have x's on both sides of my equation. So let's move one of the x's to the other side. I'm going to add, well, actually, I'm sorry, let me get rid of this 6 first. I forgot about that. I'm going to subtract 6 from both sides. So now I have 3x equals 8b minus 5x plus 2a minus 6. The last thing I'm going to do is now add 5x to both sides. Adding 5x to both sides moves my variable term. Actually, I'm going to run out of room here. Let me move this. And I am left with 3x plus 5x is 8x equals 8b, that's eliminated, plus 2a minus 6. And then the very last thing I would need to do is divide both sides of my equation by 8. And so my final answer would be, or this solving for x would give me x equals 8 divided by 8 is 1b. 2 over 8 is going to give me plus 1/4 a, and then negative 6 over 8, negative 6 divided by 8 is going to give me negative 3/4. Now, this example I made up right here is actually a little bit more challenging than the one that you are being given, but the idea is the same. Solve for x, meaning move every term away from the x variable, move everything away, and follow the same steps that we learned for solving equations. All right, hopefully that helps. Good luck.